All right. As you guys know, on Fridays, lots of game situations, and so that's what we hit on again today. My wife was talking to me last night about the game, and she asked, does she need to be mentally and emotionally prepared for another heart-stopping finish? And I laughed, and I said, yeah, honestly, that's what gets our team rocking the most. And it wasn't funny to her, but but you get it. Like, we do live for these moments, and we practice a lot of them. And so we had some more today. We're working really hard, and this has been for more than 20 weeks of every day of doing some from Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays and, Saturdays and all the way through. And so I know it seems crazy from the outside, but it doesn't feel like that on the inside. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. And so today we did some more, just to stay in that pocket of getting ready, and a lot of cool stuff to get rolling on. Captains are the same, so these lead sled dogs have certainly done their thing. So let's get rolling with you guys and get started.
Dan, this is a random question, but what is the origin, backstory of the phrase dog-ass competitor?
I feel like I'm like a spelling bee origin. Can I use it in a sentence? I love the central theme here to be about competing. And so that's really, what it stands for, about like just absolutely battling and going for it. And that heightened awareness, that competing, that's so many of the players that are in that locker room. And some of the very best competitors I know, they live here and they're going for it hard. And so having that type of attitude amongst more creates, a mindset of belief, and but that is what we stand for.
Jaden was saying that, to him it doesn't matter home or away or whatever, but he seems like he kind of embraces those road situations. Do you see that in him? And if so, what does that say about him?
He is. There's so many times we've talked about him, but I've seen so much of that through the season, whether it's home or road. And I think as important, John, to say this, I've also seen him on when we win and when we lose. And so that demeanor of maybe just a fist bump, or there's not a helmet being thrown on the ground. There's a poise about this person in those moments that really stands tall. And so whether it's home or road, I think the lessons, that have been learned are like, man, he's just been in them and been in these fights. And if you ask me which one do you learn more from, the loss or the win, I'd say equally, because you have to go through both sides of it to really go. But that part for him, he can just stay right in it. And you've seen many times where there's a big throw and then you just see one of those, but it's not going crazy. Like, he has ability to stay in it for a really long time. And we'll need that again. This is an excellent team, and we'll need every bit of it.
Playing on the road like that, how important is that for a young guy?
Yeah, it's important both ways. It's the extra addition of the crowd, and this is also a fantastic defense to go against. But in those spaces, you do gain confidence when you've put the work in. And even when they're an excellent competitor, like I've put the work in, you know what you're going to do in that scenario and how to do it. So I think that also carries a lot in whether you're at home or on the road. Having that background of work, man, that gives you a lot of confidence.
Have there been any players that really stood out to you this season that have changed their work ethic, have really adopted your approach, your mindset, and how they go about their day?
You know what? I told the team this today or yesterday, I can't remember, and I think I had told them that we've gotten better in the last 5 weeks since we played them, but I don't think it was all on the field. There's also a mindset, an attitude for that can go along with that improvement, like just from the neck up. And so when you improve both ways, the on and off the field, you do get stronger. And it may not show up on the stat sheet, but it does show up in your play and in your readiness. So I don't have one specific for you, but I have felt a shift that took place. And we are improving, and we went after it again today in those spots.
Why do you think there was that shift?
I think the confidence came from being in a lot of these close games, Nikki. And and there's another one, and there's another one. And so you gained some belief and some confidence, but you do have to be in those fights that are back and forth, and you're being in those moments. As much as we practice them, there's still the element of like being in the moment. and being in that space. And it is stressful, and like being able to handle that and be into it and look right at it and go for it. Like, you do have to live that.
Saquon's ability to hit the backside at full speed seems remarkable. And I just wonder, I know the teaching points are about being where you're supposed to be and staying in your gap and that sort of thing, but is it the unique challenge of not just being where you're supposed to be, but then making good contact with him to get him down to the ground, or at least hold him up until somebody else gets him down? What's the biggest challenge there?
You're right, and twofold. And the first one is because he can test all the gaps, there could be a time, okay, I got mine, but I see him starting to go back, and I'll go make the play, and he can stick his foot in the ground and even come back again. So the discipline to do it over and over is a big deal. And it sounds easier to stay in your gap. Like, they're also a really good offensive line. So it's not just, stationary things to stay. And so doing it over and over is the really big piece. And so he's got great change of direction. So owning your leverage and tackling is a really big deal, because if you miss it, much like, we're guarding each other in basketball and I lost my leverage and you go past me, that's no different in gap control. You keep your leverage, because if you lose it on him, it could be a big play.
You said something yesterday about Ron Wolf talking about drafting good tacklers, and I just wonder, why do you think tackling has kind of been a challenge in the league the last few years?
Let's start even all the way back when we wanted to do this safer. And so I think that's an important piece I don't want to leave out of this. And then I'll get back to why is it more challenging? Because I think you can be really tough and still, use our shoulder and own our leverage. That definitely took some teaching to do that. And then offensively, the amount of space, that's being created by formations and routes is almost specifically, designed. Can I get this player in space? Can I get this player in space? And then now with that space, that's the tough tackle. So twofold. One, I think the schemes are difficult, and there's oftentimes you'll see a team play their safeties high and have depth. I'm going to play from high to low. And then if that is the case, then there is some space in the down low to make sure if the catch happens, you can go. Also, runners, I think, are attacking leverage more than we ever had. And we're in the past, be your own blocker, run them over. And there's still a few like that. And there's times for that. It's close to the goal line and to go. But there's also someone break his leverage, And so you've heard us talk running through the smoke, break somebody's leverage. It's a jab. It's a stiff arm. So I think that's why I thought the reason is behind it. The space in the formations, the skill of the runners, and then in an effort to do more tackling, safer, we just got to continue that on that path, because it's the right way to teach it, Dave. And we're not backing off of that. We can play tough and aggressive and also do it safely. And I think all three of those are really important to talk about, encompassing tackling all the way around.
Dan, you've mentioned sometimes you have to go through it in order to get to the other side and find the success. You guys obviously had that 3-game losing streak, haven't lost since, and some of the players have said that stretch was maybe one where kind of showed, hey, maybe we're staying together. We kind of can take this to another level. What lessons do you think the team, or maybe even yourself, learned from that 3-game stretch that's catapulted you to where you are? Yeah,
it's probably that connection to stay together when there's things outside that are hard, to deal with. And honestly, I can think back, we had a guest speaker. It's not exactly related to this, but it just put a thought into my head in training camp of Jay Glazier was here, and he was talking about mental health. And one thing that stood out to me in that talk on that day, he said, there's 90 therapists in here. And he was referring to all the teammates. And when you're going, and which leads me to this, when you're going through the tough spaces, who do you lean on? The guys you're right next to, the guys that are in the room. There's not an answer that's going to come from outside. It's about the group getting tighter and tighter. And you've also seen on those moments where it fractures and goes the other way. And so I think every once in a while, whether it's, a situation like that or where it can go either way, and you choose to bring it in tighter and talk to it about it and have conversations about what are we going to do to improve? How is that going to, what are the things we need to do? That to me is a really big deal, Ben. And the team has gotten closer and tighter because of going through the hard stuff together.
And an off topic, it's being reported that Pete Carroll's is being hired to be
that away. Awesome. We're at
The Raiders.
All right.
Either head coach. So
that fires me up, man.
So I'm just curious. I didn't know if you had heard.
I don't bring my phone to practice, honestly. Yeah. That's awesome. That makes me happy.
So to that end, like what, obviously with him, you guys reached the highest point you can get in this profession. What kind of, as you're going through this now, what kind of, if anything, from that time, kind of harken back to, or maybe helps guide you through this?
He was one of the first people that really influenced me on like the mental part of the game and staying in the routine and staying through things together and not making things bigger than what they were. And he had an excellent primetime record, and a lot of that was attributed to they didn't make the next one and go high and low. So that definitely affected me. There's lots of things that he had a big influence on me. So yeah, I'm very happy to hear that.
Hey, Coach.
Hi.
In looking at the defense last week, and looking at they really played well up front, and looking at their gaps and staying true to their assignments, did you see that more last week? And then looking at this week as far as their play? Yeah,
I would say I probably said it this week about the team, but that would be one of the ones I'm referring to. Like our floor on that has grown, but we're not near the ceiling at that. There were still some spots. Gibbs broke a leverage to get outside, and so those are the things that you just want to stay after over and over again and eliminate the big plays. But I was definitely, impressed by what I saw. We knew we had to affect the quarterback against a really good offensive line, and I thought Detroit's line was one of the better ones that we had faced this year. Philadelphia is certainly one, but those games, both ways, run fits and rushing the passer, you need to have both. And so that was exciting to see.
And we're at the end of the week now, just days away from the championship game. How has it been for you this week? And because it's hard to, I guess, contain your bubbling up right now.
Yeah, there's some good vibrations going on for sure. But the team also has a really cool routine that we stay into. And so I tried to stay really consistent with that. What do we do on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Fridays? So all year long, I've been talking about like championship game preparation. So when we got to this week, it wasn't going to feel different. It was going to feel normal. This is how we're going to function. And I was really pleased to see today's practice. This was the best Friday we've had this season. And the speed, the energy, the execution. And so that's what you want to see from your team, like that kind of, staying disciplined into it, not looking ahead 2 days from now, but like, could we throw a hell of a Friday and get it executed like we wanted?
Hey, Coach, so last Saturday night against the Lions, after Brian Robinson Jr.'s first touchdown, I saw you all kind of embrace, and you talked to him for a moment. So B. Rob's had an interesting year, right, from the injuries and everything, and then just, the play and having some good games and some, a little bit more quiet ones. So what have you seen from him specifically throughout this season?
Yeah, I think specifically to this game, I haven't looked back. We did have a great visit, and on that particular play, I just he was in my mind, he was just getting going, and so I was making sure he stayed connected to that, and he's had a really good week this week too. So as we're going through it, man, there's that's part of being a ball player. There's you hit highs and lows and being on a team and all of those things, but he does have a lot of resilience, and so to see him really feeling his strongest, as we're going right now, that's a big deal.
And I know we ask a lot about the players, but from a coaching perspective, how are you all as a staff just trying to remain, not too high, not too low, keep it kind of even in preparation for when is it? Sunday?
Yeah. We started right, from with one extra day. And so let's get the game graded, get it organized, and then this is how we'll lay out the whole week. So at the start of it, I kind of lay out, this is how we're going to do everything. And we're the ones that have to keep, the standard and the process right, because they'll follow our lead on that. And so that's all there was this game. And so the matchup, all the stuff to go, and I said, you don't have to rush this. Take our time. Go through every process. The easy thing was say, well, you know them. You've played them twice. And we didn't do that. We wanted to have fresh eyes to say, what's the same and what's different, and how do we go for it in that way. And so they've done a really good job, because you're right, the natural tendency is you get excited and to stay right with it, man. And so that's a natural normal emotion, you're so damn pumped to do right? Hey, man, like, what are the things we do best? It's not about a new scheme. It's about, championship runs are about execution and finishing and fundamentals. And so fundamentals for us, Tavita had said it, it's not something that we restart. Like, that's just how we get down. And so it's not like stick to the fundamentals is what he had told us the other day. He said, it's literally what we do, like all the time. Like, that is part of how we do things, because we talk about the ball and tackling on every Wednesday and Thursday. So it's not a return to those. It's literally a continuation of that. And I thought that was a great message by him to remind the players we're not sticking to it. Like, this is how we get down.
Coach, time of possession. Both teams are in the top of the league with time of possession, the game within the game. How important is time of possession for you on Sunday?
It's big for us every game, and we think of it more so than just the time. We try to get, when we're in our best, the completions and the runs are, in the mid-50s and above. And that's difficult to do, so you have to play well on third down. You've got some fourth down ops that you can extend some drives. And so that, for us, is usually the marker that we're hitting. And if you do those right and play well on third down and have some fourth downs that you get, then your drives can sustain. And for us, that's a big part of how we play. And over the last 2 weeks in the postseason, both teams that we played as well as us were also good in that game. And so it's definitely a really important part of what we're going to be doing, on this Sunday.